A cardboard box. What in the world would you do with a cardboard box? You could toss it in the recycling, or you can check out this tutorial and see what I've got in store for you. Today's video is going to be part 1 of 2 using a cardboard box. Stay tuned.
You are what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for.
Okay, now that you're intrigued, I've got a cardboard box that my Gina Designs card kit comes in. This is just a regular standard cardboard box. There's nothing fancy about it. We're going to cut this up and we're going to turn it into something super cool. So I'm just popping this box and opening it up all the way so that I can kind of see what I need to cut off in order to turn this into a holiday planner or album or whatever you want to use it for, a notebook. So I'm going to grab my big Tonic Studios trimmer and I'm going to start cutting off the flaps. I want to keep like a front and a back cover and the spine. Everything else I'm going to cut away. I'm just using that big trimmer and taking little bits at a time and chopping it up. I did have to detach my little security guide there in order to fit this in all the way, but it worked out okay. You could use a craft knife and a ruler if you wanted to here, or scissors, whatever works for you. I like this big Tonic Studios trimmer. So I've got my cardboard box cut down to the size that I want it, and this final measurement turns out to be 12 inches by 8.5 inches. So the front cover is 5 inches, the spine is 2 inches, and the back cover is 5 inches. What I've got here is some black cardstock. I've got the pieces cut up and the measurements you're going to need to cover the book if you're creating it the same size as mine. The measurements that we're going to need are 5.5 by 10 inches, and you'll need one for the front and one for the back. And then for the spine, you'll need one piece that measures 2 by 10 inches. So we're cutting these pieces a little bit larger than we need because we're going to wrap them around the cardboard. So I'm taking some strong double-sided adhesive here and I'm going to cover the whole back side of this piece of cardstock. I want to make sure that my cover is nice and sturdy and sticks on there well. It's probably overkill, but I have this adhesive, so I'm going to use it up anyways. I'm going to cover this entire piece, and then any excess that's hanging over, I'm going to wrap that around the cardboard. Because I'm going to do the same thing with the cardstock, and I'll need this to be sticky as well, so the cardstock will stick there. So I'm just kind of bending it, making sure everything folds nicely, and I'll peel off that adhesive, and then I'm going to start popping on my pieces of cardstock. So I'm going to start with my spine. I'm going to get it lined up as best as I can and press that in, and then we'll do the front and back cover. And I just want to make sure that I get the same amount of space on the top and bottom. I didn't do that with the spine piece, but I'm trying my best to line it up so I have the same amount of extra cardstock going over the sides and the top. So I'll get that done for both sides. I'll pop these pieces down and then I'm just going to press in that adhesive to make sure it's nice and stuck. So I'm just checking to make sure there's no overhang and everything is on there nicely. I've added extra adhesive on the inside so that the top and bottom can fold over and attach. I'll come back and add some adhesive to the left and right sides so that they'll be able to fold over and stick as well. And I'm just taking my score tool and I'm scoring the perimeter of the cardboard. I want to make sure that when I kind of fold this over the edges, it's not going to crack the cardstock. I have a little bit too much hanging over, so I just want to trim off a little bit here and then create little angled cuts on the corners. These little mitered corners or angle cuts are to ensure that everything folds together nicely. So I've gone ahead and cut all 4 sides, and now I'm going to help work that cardstock in. I'm just going to hold my cardboard upright and help bend that cardstock and then press it into the adhesive. I use my bone folder to burnish to make sure that everything is good and attached. And I also run the bone folder over the edge so it kind of helps sort of flatten it so it's not like pointy. The cardboard is about 1/8 of an inch thick, so it's got a little bit of an edge there. So by using the bone folder and creating that little squared off edge, it helps it so it's not pointy or sharp. So I folded the top and the bottom, and now I'm coming back to apply adhesive to the sides to fold in those sides. And then I want to be mindful here of the corners. I like to take my bone folder and sort of push in the corners and tuck them in so they don't end up being sharp. So we want to make sure that we have like a nice rounded corner here. So I'll push those edges in and burnish in the adhesive. And then we have the first part of our book done. As I go through, I'm constantly checking to make sure that the box or book now can open and fold and nothing is coming apart and there's no stress in weird areas. So this makes sure that my book is going to be usable when it's done. So I'm just cutting off a little bit of excess around the spine here. Now you can see a little bit of that cardboard, but we're going to come back and fix this in a minute. I've got a couple of pieces of cardstock that are cut up and I've added some double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to cover the inside of my cardboard now. So the measurements you'll need for the inside will be 4 3/4 by 8.5, and you'll need 2 of those panels for the inside covers on the left and the right. And then for the spine, we're going to need a piece that's 2 by 8.25 inches. And I've got those all cut out and covered in adhesive. For the spine, I've got double-sided tape on here, but I'm going to add liquid glue too. Because I'm going to have some pages in here that's going to add some weight to the spine of this book, I want to make sure it's not going to come apart. Again, it's probably overkill. I'm not going to put rocks in here, but just to be on the safe side, I want my book to stay together and hold up when I open and close it and add my things inside of it. All right, so here we go. We've got the base template of our book ready. Now I'm starting to get excited visualizing what I'm going to turn this into. So I'm going to grab a black permanent marker and I'm just going to color in those exposed spines. I really don't have a special fancy way on how to fix this, but I feel like if I was to wrap it in cardstock, it would end up cracking. So I thought it would be best to put it in small pieces like I have done. The other alternative is to paint the cardboard before or use black chipboard if you're not going to use cardboard. But this whole idea is about trash to treasure. So I'm going to go ahead and color this cardboard in, and I really like the result. It doesn't look so hot right now, but when I start to cover it up, you're not even going to see this. It's going to look so beautiful and you won't even pay attention to that. Now it's time to decorate and turn this into something really super fun. I'm only going to cover the front cover and the inside covers of this book, and then I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you would like to see this project be turned into, whether it be a calendar or a planner or an album or a notebook. I want to hear your thoughts. So to decorate this album, I'm going to start flipping through this paper pack. This is the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas Volume 2 paper pack, and it has all these beautiful 12 by 12 papers, and it also has a sticker sheet. So I'm just flipping through here, looking at each and every pattern, really deciding what I want to use. I settled on a pattern that I'd like to see my book covered in. And so I'm going to get that cut up. Now I'm going to take one of the pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock and I'm going to cut it down to 8 1/4. And then I'm going to rotate it, and I want to cut it so that my pattern stays intact. So when I split it up, it's a continuous pattern. So I'm going to make my first cut at 4 3/4. And then I'm going to make my next cut at 1 3/4. And then finally, I'm going to take this piece and cut the last little bit to 4 3/4. And I'm going to keep all these scraps off to the side. We'll probably end up using some scraps throughout this project. And now I'm just going to line these up on my cover, and that looks beautiful. I'm really happy with this. I love the way this is looking so far. And I'm going to get everything adhered down to my book. So I've got the left and the right pages adhered, and I had an afterthought here. I wanted to add some ribbon as a closure. So I have this really cool snowflake ribbon and this black sheer ribbon. So I've got 2 pieces that are about probably 2 feet long. And I'm just going to make sure I have the center, figure out where the center is, and I'm going to use that pattern paper to cover my ribbon so that it's held down into place. So I'm just going to use my bone folder to hold it in place here while I cover this cardstock in liquid glue. And then I'm going to pop this piece of pattern paper over top of my ribbon, making sure that my ribbon stays where I want it. And I also add a little bit of liquid glue underneath that ribbon, just so that everything is nice and strong and held into place. Initially, I thought I would have liked it better if the ribbon was underneath the entire book of the pattern paper, but I actually like this result. I like the way it looks. I went ahead and I cut a piece for the inside of my book. I used the same measurements, and I've got this Santa and his reindeer flying over houses. I really like that image. I wanted to put that on the front of my book, but because Santa is on the right hand side, it would end up being on the back of my book, and I wasn't a fan of that. If Santa's not going to be on the front of my book, then I want him somewhere else. I've got these patterns lined up. Everything is looking good so far. I'm really liking the way this is coming along. Now I decided to use some eyelets to punch a hole and set my ribbons into place. And an eyelet is a great idea to use here because it's nice and strong and it'll hold those ribbons. So I went ahead and I just clipped those ribbons down and I punched a hole. Now what I didn't realize is that I punched through both sides of the ribbon. I made a hole in the other part, which was not my intention. So I'm going to pop in this eyelet and I'll use my crocodile to set it. And then it just creates a really sturdy hold on that ribbon, and I don't have to worry about it, falling off or pulling away, and it's got a nice, clean, professional look. So now that I have a hole in that ribbon there, I thought, well, I could just take the snowflakes, pop it through the ribbon, and have it come out the other side. I just fed that ribbon through, pulled it out, and there we go. Now my sheer ribbon has a hole in it, but there was a purpose to it. So I decided to do the same thing to the back piece. I punched the holes the exact same way. I punched that extra hole. So this turned out to be a happy accident. And now I have these beautiful eyelets set into my book, and you've got these gorgeous ribbons hanging off. It's just so elegant and classy. I really love the way this looks. So now I'm going to go back to that paper pack and pull out one of those little cut aparts. I want this one here that says, "May your days be merry and bright." So I'm going to trim that out, get that little piece cut out, and I'm going to grab my scallop punch, and I'm just going to punch little tabs into the corners of this piece of cardstock. And I'm also using one of the scraps. This green paper is the back side of the paper that's on my cover. So I'm just going to glue all that together and create a little focal image for the front of my book. And I'm also going to grab little gold pearls and adhere those into that little tab punch in that front cardstock. So it just kind of looks like it was meant to be here. I really love the way that looks. That little tab punch has kind of created a home for my gold pearls. And the gold pearls also matched the eyelet that I set into the front of the book. So I'm popping that up on some foam squares here, and I'm going to attach that right to the front of my book. I'm going to cover up that ribbon a little bit. I like the way that this looks. Here's a close-up look of what we've got so far. I'm so excited for this project. The possibilities for a project like this are endless. There's so much that you can do. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below, what you think that we should turn this book into. So when I come back with the next video on part 2, we'll finish this off and create something magical. All the products that I used in today's video will be linked in the description box down below. So if you do decide to make a purchase, please use my links as it helps support my channel. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I appreciate the support as always. Coming up on screen is a video I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!